Buenos Aires confused me a little. Not right away. At first, it gave me exactly what people promise you it will. Beautiful old architecture that looked vaguely European in the way former colonies often try to. Tiny cafes with exhausted waiters carrying espresso and cigarettes like sacred ritual objects. Bookstores that somehow still felt romantic in a world where everybody scrolls instead of reads. Couples kissing outside restaurants at midnight while stray dogs slept peacefully beside them like this happened every night. और शुरू में मैं भी बाकी टूरिस्ट की तरह यही समझा कि शायद ये सिर्फ एक खूबसूरत शहर है. But cities reveal themselves differently once you stop trying to consume them. A local photographer I met there spent an afternoon walking me through neighborhoods tourists usually pass through quickly. San Telmo, La Boca, quiet side streets where the paint was fading but the character was not. At one point, she stopped in the middle of a narrow street and said something I haven't stopped thinking about since. She told me Buenos Aires was a city addicted to nostalgia. Not history, nostalgia. There's a difference. History teaches, nostalgia seduces. और शायद इसीलिए मुझे Buenos Aires इतना emotionally honest लगा. You could feel it everywhere. In the old cafes, in the politics, in the music, even in the pizza. और सच कहूँ तो जिंदगी का एक बेहतरीन पिज़्ज़ा मैंने Buenos Aires में खाया. Which somehow makes perfect sense once you understand how deeply Italian immigration shaped the city. That's the thing travel teaches you when you actually slow down long enough to pay attention. Most cities are really just layered evidence of migration, survival, colonization, ambition, memory, and people trying to build meaning out of instability. Nothing appears out of nowhere. Not architecture, not food, not identity. और शायद इंसान भी ऐसे ही होते हैं. We carry old worlds inside us long after leaving them. A few days later, I visited Recoleta Cemetery and stood near Evita's tomb watching tourists take photos beside one of the most iconic figures in Argentine history. And it struck me how every country eventually turns certain people into emotional symbols. Not because they were perfect, because they represented longing, hope, class struggle, rebellion, national identity. कुछ दिन बाद मैं Buenos Aires यूनिवर्सिटी के कुछ एंटरप्रेन्योर से मिला. उसी जगह जहां कभी चे गुवेरा ने मेडिसिन पढ़ी थी. That contrast stayed with me. One generation talking about revolution, another talking about startups, venture capital, and leaving Argentina before the economy collapses again. Different language, same anxiety. और अजीब बात यह है कि इंस्टेबिलिटी कल्चर के साथ मर्ज हो जाती है. You could feel the tension across the city, especially in La Boca. Tourists taking colorful photos while local artists quietly negotiated prices that probably determined whether the week went smoothly or not. वहाँ के कुछ local artists से मैंने भी art खरीदी. And the strange thing was, none of it felt fake. Performative sometimes, wounded occasionally, but not fake. Buenos Aires felt emotionally honest. And honestly, that disturbed me a little. Because I realized how deeply Americanized my nervous system had become. I realized this one night while walking across Puente de la Mujer, which is one of the famous bridges in the city. The city was quiet, the water was still. Couples sat near the river talking softly like they had nowhere more important to be. No urgency, no performance. And meanwhile, I caught myself checking email in Buenos Aires around midnight. हजारों मील दूर बैठा हुआ मैं अब भी उस एंजाइटी में ऑपरेट कर रहा था जिसे अमेरिका एम्बिशन का नाम देता है. That disturbed me more than I expected. Because the truth is, a lot of immigrants don't actually know how to rest. We know how to survive. We know how to adapt. We know how to remain useful long after exhaustion should have focused us to stop. But stillness is harder. Because it forces us to reflect. क्योंकि खामोशी मुश्किल सवालात सामने ले आती है. Did I actually choose this space? Or did I inherit it? Am I ambitious or just afraid of becoming irrelevant again? Would I even recognize myself without pressure? ये सवाल आसान नहीं होते, especially for immigrants. Especially for people raised inside families where sacrifice was treated like a form of love. Later that week, I had dinner with a couple I met through couchsurfing, Bilwa and Adrian, a lovely local couple. We talked for hours about Argentina, politics, inflation, relationships, America, work, और उस अजीब प्रेशर के बारे में जो मॉडर्न लाइफ इंसान पर डालती है कि वो हर वक्त अपने आप को ऑप्टिमाइज करता रहे. And I remember thinking how rare it has become to sit with strangers without everybody trying to extract something from each other. No networking, no performance, just honest conversation. और अजीब बात यह है कि आजकल सिर्फ बातचीत भी काफी रेडिकल महसूस होती है. And maybe that's what meaningful travel is actually supposed to do. Not help you escape your life, but maybe help you notice it more clearly. Because after a while, you realize food was just never food. Cities are never just cities. And conversations with strangers are rarely just conversations. They're entry points into bigger questions about loneliness, identity, ambition, class, politics, migration, and what modern life quietly does to human beings. And Buenos Aires felt like that to me. Not just beautiful, not just nostalgic, human. A city trying to remain emotionally alive in a world obsessed with optimization. और शायद इसीलिए वो शहर मेरे साथ रह गया. Not because it was exciting, not because it was romantic, but because somewhere between the cafes, the political conversations, the cigarette smoke, the midnight dinners, and the silence on that bridge, I realized how uncomfortable I had become with simply sitting still.